So, what's really going on with America? To understand this, you, the viewer, need to see into the theoretical notion that our whole world is a greater human embryo, right at the 6 to 8 week mark of its development. I go over this through all my videos on this channel. Humanity is growing into greater life. So this is what's really going on, not in the old static reality, but in a deeper living reality where we've been developing into a greater living system as a greater human embryo. And it's right at this 6 to 8 week mark that an embryo either goes through a biological default process and becomes female, or it has to go through a high energy, symmetry breaking masculinity function to become male. So what's going on in America right now has to do with this process of humanity and our living greater self choosing our greater gender. That's a big part of what's been happening in America in recent years. In this video here, I prove that we do have a greater Y chromosome, so we must become male, and as events with Iran and Israel show, that process is already happening. So everyone knows that every human being is made up of 46 chromosomes, 23 maternal chromosomes from the mother and 23 paternal chromosomes from the father. And it's the same thing for the greater human which we're developing together into, which means we have 46 greater chromosomes. When George Washington became our first president, think of this first presidency as sort of laying out and organizing our first greater chromosome. Like some stuff had to play out in our world to set up this first chromosome. And these things happened during Washington's 8 years as president. Then a second greater chromosome was laid out or organized, or however it is you want to say it, during John Adams' presidency. A third greater chromosome got organized during Thomas Jefferson's term, and so forth. So now, the 9th president, William Henry Harrison, he died after just a few weeks in office and was replaced by John Tyler. So the numbering of the presidents to the greater chromosomes has been off by one since that time. In other words, Abraham Lincoln was our 16th president, but I think his term was actually laying down and organizing the 15th greater chromosome. Thus, when Trump got elected, the 45th president, this was really the 44th greater chromosome, which is the last of the non-sex greater chromosomes. So then when Joe Biden became America's 46th president, this was actually the 45th greater X chromosome. You understand the significance of that? That's the maternal sex chromosome. And so just think about the massive amounts of greater biological default which started all the DEI and trans and all the woke stuff, the massive feminization and homosexualization of everything, really, trying in every possible way to lock things down into female or homosexual ways. This was our greater X chromosome getting put into place. All this stuff has to do with choosing our greater gender, but also choosing whether we're going to become gay or straight. See, look at this video to see how many different kinds of greater biological default the human race is facing. There's a lot. You default in a female form, but you can also default in a homosexual form. Only heterosexual men are really, truly, fully undefaulted. Black and white dynamics are tied in with different kinds of default, all sorts of stuff. This should be a major concern for the whole world of men. But for now, just for right now, imagine that every person has an inner civilization inside their brain. Like we're filling out into an entire solar system of 100 billion people and our 100 billion computers. And so inside every human brain, the computers relate to neurons, and the people relate to glial cells. So we have an inner civilization. I explained that in some of the other videos. But so each one of us has an inner civilization that's just in sort of similar to our outer civilization, but there are differences. Heterosexual women have become double defaulted, meaning they have gone through the biological default process with their inner brains and with their bodies. Lesbian women have defaulted with their bodies, but not with their brains, and gay men have defaulted with their brains, but not their bodies. And only heterosexual men are fully undefaulted, fully male in both our brain and our body. It does get more complicated than this, but that's the quick starting point for how to think about this stuff. The thing is, a woman cannot become truly feminine if she's filled with very masculine energies inside of her. And you see, all this we're talking about here, everything about this is motivated by the desire of an inner civilization to be able to procreate itself. That's the guiding process here that runs through the biology and the physics and through our human world and everything, is that the thing civilizations want is to be able to procreate themselves. And that for human beings, for the human race, this is like, will we be able to move up into the solar system? And later, let's say we bring the whole solar system into life, we can only move up into other solar systems in the galaxy. We can only then begin to fill out into the whole Milky Way galaxy and be able to begin to fill into all these other solar systems and pass on the human race and all of our Earth life. We can only pass all that stuff on into the deep future and out all around if we are heterosexual. Only heterosexuals pass on their inner civilizations. Homosexuals do not naturally do so. And we can't count on all that in vitro stuff. As we move out in the solar system, and we're going to be attached to other greater realities. And if they're in the past, if they don't have all that in vitro stuff yet, which I think smaller levels are the future and larger levels are the past, so they're basically not going to. This is why you have to build a strong heterosexual civilization to keep moving up through the time, size, speed levels, first into our solar system and then on into the galaxy beyond. So think of a human woman. When she thinks about something, you could say that she's basically turning inward and asking her inner civilization what they think. Well, a long time ago, back before she was even born, she did internally what we see our media world trying to do to us men in our world today. She used the whole electric reality, the new screen world, the wave reality, with its all-seeing eye of Sauron and which are all the cameras, and the evil ring, which is the legacy media. She used all of these electric energies, her maternal reality, to knock down and emasculate her inner men, who are favored by the real world or the particle reality, which is the real people on Earth long before we had computers and this whole electric world. That world favors men. But the new electric reality, the screen world, favors women. And so this woman, she built a ring world, like a vaginal ring concept world, and it broke her inner men, and she now has a highly feminized, DEI, woke, female-dominated inner civilization. So it's just natural. When she looks out into our world around her, she wants it to look like her inner world. She's seeing our outer world and saying it's not right, it's too masculine. She wants to do to our outer world what her inner world did, which is really just destroy all the masculinity of the men. But so our world has a Y chromosome, and we must become male or we will miscarry. The question is, will heterosexual men stand up and hold on or collapse to women and gay men's energies and have our world turn into a greater homosexual male being who becomes basically horizontal. They get stuck within a time-size speed level. They cannot access and move up to the next larger time-size speed level. See, the woman that we're talking about here, the thing is her inner gay men help her to demasculinize her inner self, to become more feminine, while it does not hurt her chances to procreate on the outside, because gay men also like other men. So for her to kill out a lot of the masculine men inside of her, turn herself very gay and feminine and everything, doesn't hurt her chances to procreate. So if she has a whole lot of drag queen story hour and stuff like that going on inside of her, that she elects lots of gay men into power, all this raises her gay population, dramatically lowers her strong masculine heterosexual male population. So this emasculation of all the men in our outside world, this looks right to her. So right now, all our women in America, and there's these problems in South Korea and Japan and China. Birth rates are crashing everywhere. It's a global thing, but women are looking out at the world and they're trying to make our outer world match their inner worlds. Defaulted gay and feminized. Gay men on the inside can help an outer woman feminize while still allowing her as an outer woman to procreate and pass on her inner civilization. So you could say the chiral spin of gay men is the same as the chiral spin of heterosexual women. Gay men help women default and destroy masculinity on their inside. It's like if a gay man or a heterosexual woman were to get elected president here in America. Every time he or she has to make a decision, what would they do? Well, they'd basically look inside his or her brain or his or her inner civilization, and they'd turn inward and ask themselves what seems like the right decision. And a gay man or a woman's inner civilization, it's a gay or feminine civilization. So they're going to tell him or her to do the thing which helps gay men and women and which hurts, knocks down, emasculates, and basically destroys heterosexual men. With a greater Y chromosome, which we do have, we must become male. So these two groups, gay men and heterosexual men, are in direct competition with each other. Every male being will become one or the other. It's a zero-sum competition. Some small number may call themselves bisexual or something, all these various things that the LGBT stuff says, but any straight man would really just say this is another form of gay. If you're a man who's getting, that's just gay. If you're with a woman once in a while or something, anyway. So if gay men take the leadership over heterosexual men, that world becomes literally hell. It just is destroyed for those men, period. Because if heterosexual men are the leadership group, we do not have any sexual desires for gay men at all. Gay men can live completely sexually safely inside a strong heterosexual male world. But if gay men become the dominant group, if they take over the blade top leadership, they absolutely do. They 100% do have sexual desires and will prey upon young heterosexual men. Just think about, it's not just the gays, it's all the women and the media, and it's the whole combination of everything. Think about a lot of what Drag Queen Story Hour is about. It's getting young men's inner civilizations and their outer selves to begin to favor becoming gay. So these young men will grow up to become prey for homosexuals. In a sense, you could say that when an elementary school teacher puts up a lot of gay rainbow stuff around her classroom, she's trying to murder her young boys' inner civilization. She's trying to keep them from procreating, so they'll grow up and get pulled into being gay and won't procreate. So you're killing, a civilization. A human being may die, but if you pass on your genes, think of it like humanity moves out into the Milky Way galaxy. And so someday our solar system dies, but the human civilization goes on growing out into the Milky Way. That process stops when you become gay. You don't move on up and out into new levels of existence. When a young boy goes through puberty, he's going to begin trying to discover who he is. Should he smoke cigarettes? Should he drink? Should he smoke pot? And if he's been told his whole young life that gay is good, he's going to go out and try some gay stuff as he's trying to figure out who he is. That would be a natural thing. But the thing is, this causes a massive particle function. You're a young teenage boy, and all of a sudden you have some, gay man homosexually pounding away on you or something like that. That's just a destruction, a level event. It's just going to turn him gay. So homosexuality is a part of high energy, negative particle function thing, and teaching these young kids to be absolutely accepting of that. You're trying to kill the kids. You're trying to destroy the children. Look at this chart again. The negative energies of men's bodies in this chart. I talk about women's bodies are positive. They're additive. They bring new children into the world. Men's bodies are negative. In heterosexual men, part of this is pushing other men away. The strength of heterosexual men. We have to be strong because everything comes to kill us, as you see in this world, including this gay stuff. So part of the negative energy of heterosexual men's bodies is pushing, protecting ourselves. So, and yes, some men will become gay. It's okay to have a civilization, a society that has some acceptance that this is part of nature. This is the way it works. But that does not mean that you encourage young men to think about, choosing this default and opening them up as children to make themselves into prey for homosexuals. You just should not work that way. Okay, so moving on here, then heterosexual woman can say, well, then lesbian woman must cheerle spin, in a sense, cheerle spin the same way as heterosexual men. So if humanity becomes a greater male, then what will stop lesbian women from preying upon heterosexual women to the extent that it ruins women, the same way gay men can ruin heterosexual men? Well, there are good and strong answers to that question. First, we men need our mothers to carry us, to give us life inside of them and to carry us to term and then to give birth to us. So men don't turn against women to destroy and default them the way women do with us men. Men form a new, greater relationship with women, so that while women's brains or inner civilizations are negative in character, like our modern media, like the negative ring media, they're made up of surrounding ring energies, which are critical of the core energies of men. Men have positive energy brains because we form this new relationship with women. We have to for our mother to carry us and give birth to us. So it's a positive thing. So we know women are critical of us, but if they'll lock into this new relationship with us, we'll divide up responsibilities for our whole world and going into space and caring for the planet and everything, like a greater husband and wife sort of divide up the responsibilities in their home. Only instead of building children, we'll build our greater self. The way a husband and wife will unify together to raise their children, will unify together to bring ourselves into greater life. So what I'm saying is that biologically and through greater biology here, it works like this. Men cannot live with any real true masculinity inside of a heterosexual female being. They get turned gay or just totally emasculated. But women are built to both carry and give birth to boys inside of themselves and to live inside a greater male being or world outside all around them. See, women can't move up into the solar system without us men, and men cannot create new human beings down inside our bodies. So we need women, and women need men. Together, we heterosexual men can move us upward and bring the solar system into life, and women can create the children to grow the human race. So we complement each other, we need each other, and we can form a new, happy, healthy relationship that will work for both of us. And men are designed to love women, even if we know they'll destroy us if they get power over us. One Hillary Clinton or one Kamala Harris as president, and all of us men and all of our sons and the whole future of masculine men are dead, turned gay, emasculated, ruined, and destroyed. This is just how the physics and biology of the heterosexual world of men works. Nature needs us men to be strong. As we begin to head out into the solar system and then into the galaxy, you've seen and read and seen all the science fiction stuff. There be dragons out there. Men simply have to be strong. And so nature keeps us on the knife's edge of getting destroyed. We have to at least be strong enough to stand up to our own women and to the media and to a lot of the defaulting stuff. It's designed to make us that way, just so that we'll be strong and stay strong all the way along. And so women are designed to be able to live within a male world, and men are designed to love women, even if they would destroy us if they ever got the chance. That's just sort of how it works, I guess. Anyway, right now we have an unbroken chain of masculine leadership going back to our founding fathers. Nobody's ever talked about founding mothers. It was founding fathers, back to George Washington himself, who was our founding father, the father of our nation. And the day that chain is broken by a woman or by a homosexual man, that's the day the future of the human race dies. Then we become a defaulted world which has no path to move forward, unbroken, undefaulted, up into larger levels of existence. And as we start to form this new relationship, it'll be like men forming into some responsibilities, and women will have all kinds of new responsibilities. So they'll have lots of stuff to do, with women having all sorts of things and all sorts of female leadership. And heterosexual women will mostly be in charge of dealing with the political aspects of stuff with gay men and lesbian women. So heterosexual men will mostly focus on like bringing the solar system into life and on other things. And women, sort of the way a single woman sort of takes charge of the children. There's lots of new stuff for women, and stuff will be okay for gays and lesbians and stuff. It's just their group does not get to take leadership over us heterosexual men. We're dead if they do. So come back to lesbian woman here, and heterosexual women saying, so the chiral spin is the same as men. And yes, lesbian women are attracted to other women, so they are not going to hurt heterosexual men's chances to procreate. So they could wind up having a bit of a rise in their energies if we turn heterosexual male. But let's say that at some point, heterosexual women say to us men, they come to us men and complain that lesbians are preying upon them or harming them in some way. Well, then we men will just look over at lesbians women and say firmly, hey, knock it off. Heterosexual women make no effort to curb gay men's predation upon heterosexual men. Just look at shows like The View, how they're always saying, just anything in the media. But men are the dominant group between us and lesbians, and so we'll just tell them to knock it off if they're doing anything with women. Women partner with gay men to destroy and default heterosexual men, but heterosexual men partner with heterosexual women first and foremost. And we make sure gays and lesbians work with and fit into the basic structure, respecting our women and following the rules we men put in place to keep ourselves undefaulted. That's sort of our job, is to lay down the rules so that the media and the women and all these other kinds of defaults, so that we can remain undefaulted and strong through the years ahead. So for heterosexual women, like I said, there'll be lots of new leadership, and they'll have a new role with gays and lesbians and all kinds of stuff going on. So there'll be plenty for them to do. So this is all really just about a totally different dynamic all the way around. Anyway, let's come back to the idea here that Joe Biden's 46th presidency organized and sort of laid down the 45th greater maternal X chromosome. So then the election between Kamala and Trump for his second term was about the question of whether we have a greater Y chromosome or not. I have a lot of proofs in this video right here that we do, but this is a big real world one that happened. Is with Trump winning, that's saying, yes, we just have one X chromosome, and then we have a greater Y chromosome. If Kamala Harris had won, our whole world would have just collapsed, all girly girl and gay and everything. But it didn't. We have a Y chromosome. And so we've been taking a strong jump towards masculinity. But the thing is, Donald Trump is associated with the 44th greater chromosome, not the 46th greater Y chromosome. That's my job. This all comes back to how the Y chromosome stops the default process. On the Y chromosome, there's an extremely high energy gene, the highest energy gene of all the different genes on all the 46 different chromosomes. This is the SRY gene, which brings about the masculinity function. And it's the one in a human male embryo that creates a very high energy protein, which I'm like a high energy protein that's been given all these ideas to understand what's happening in our world and how to masculinize things and bring us on into heterosexual masculine life. So what is this greater SRY gene? It's basically, in our world here, it's life. It's about bringing our world into greater life. This is the time where the entire human race must come together and unify into one greater living system. So all the national presidents and prime ministers and so forth become something sort of like governors, with one unified world leader bringing us into greater life. Think of it like we have loose organs or brain systems right now. All our different countries are like different systems or different organs and systems in the brain or in the body, and they're not all tied together yet. We do not have a fully unified living system yet. You have to make this decision of male or female first. And so we have to tie everything together into one greater living system. To do this, we have to make our first decisions about, heterosexual and male masculine values, or this whole thing just really collapses. If we have a Y chromosome, we have a path that we need to take ahead of us here to make things work. I think Malcolm Gladwell said it takes about 10,000 hours of working on something to become an expert at it. And I've been working on these greater life ideas in isolation here for over 30 years now, just all the time. That's all I do. I live in great isolation, and all I really do is work on these ideas. So I have well over 100,000 hours of hard work, more than 10 times the 10,000 hours. So I'm ready to go over all of it with the world and bring us into greater life and get us moving up into the solar system and solve our problems here on Earth. And you can just check out all of these videos. I explain a wondrous amount of stuff, things that are really going to just change the underlying reality of the human race. It'll be, once you've looked at these videos and come to accept what's going on, you're not even going to live in the same world you used to live in. You're going to see our reality completely differently. but I need some help. I need people to see these videos. Please subscribe and please share these videos and help create our greater life. Help be one of the people that is one of the first ones to really do the task to bring our world into greater life. So thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video.